but some of us need to speak out because too many people are dying, right? And there's these, back in the day when AA started, there weren't these drugs that were killing people first time. And it's a scary place. So we need a few soldiers out there that are willing to do this.
Welcome to Recovery.com, where we share authentic stories from influential voices about the joys of life in mental health and addiction recovery, and the journeys that led us here.
We tell our stories because we don't heal in isolation.
I'm Brittany Baynard.
And I'm Tom Farley. On this episode of Recovery.com, we welcome Ben Fisher, the creator behind A String of Hope, a powerful platform dedicated to mental health, addiction recovery, and personal growth. After overcoming his own struggles with addiction, Ben channeled his experiences into creating content that resonates with millions. Through candid storytelling and motivational insights, he fosters a community of support and resilience. His commitment to authenticity and healing has made him a beacon of hope for many navigating similar challenges. Join us for an inspiring conversation about transformation, vulnerability, and the journey towards self-discovery. Let's get into it.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Recovery.com. Today, we are joined by the amazing Ben Fisher. Ben is a recovery advocate, author, artist, just all around cool dude, but still just a dude in recovery. So thank you so much for joining us today. Very excited to have you. So let's jump right in. Take us back to the beginning. Do you remember your first drink, and were you exposed to a lot of alcohol in your early years?
It's a great question. First, I just want to say thank you guys.
Yay, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for having me here. Your whole team has been amazing, from picking me up at the airport, taking me out to dinner last night, giving me a tour of Madison, Wisconsin.
Awesome,
it's a beautiful town.
Good.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So
we love to treat people like family.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a great conversation.
Oh, it's going to be awesome.
Absolutely.
It's going to be awesome. But I remember my first drink vividly. And it actually ties into a lot of my story where it comes to my platform called A String of Hope, because it involves me playing the guitar. And I'll tell you all about it. So I was 12 years old, so very young. And it was a family gathering. And one of my uncles, I was sitting around at this family gathering playing the guitar for everybody.
Oh, cool.
And one of my drunk uncles came over. No offense to any of my uncles. I love you guys. You know who you are. Some of them are sober now too. But one of them came over and said, handed me a Budweiser. And he's like, take a drink of this. And I grabbed it and I took a sip. And he's like, no, you take a real drink. So then I chugged it. And that wave hit me. I had my guitar in my hands. The wave hit me of feeling that for the first time. And my 12-year-old brain was like, this is it. This is what I need to feel normal.
You legit had like a switch flip.
It was like a switch flipped in me. And I wouldn't say from that point on, I was probably an alcoholic from that point on because of that moment, but it's not like I continued to drink every day. Obviously, I was 12 years old. I couldn't find it. And I do want to make sure that I say this about that story. My parents are amazing and they would have never condoned that. And we thought it was harmless. They thought it was harmless. Like he's going to have a sip of alcohol.
We all had that uncle. I'm like, as soon as I'm hearing that, I'm like, that was probably.
I don't think that moment sent me down the path that I went down. I think I was going to go down the path I went down no matter what. And really, I can back up from that moment and tell you about another thing that had to do with the guitar. When I was 7 years old, I was sitting with my dad and he had the old Woodstock documentary playing.
Oh, cool.
The original Woodstock, obviously. This is before the one happened in the 90s that was crazy. But Jimi Hendrix came on and played his set, and then he ripped the Star Spangled Banner at the end of that. And I remember seeing that with my jaw on the floor, like, holy shit, that's what I want to do.
Yeah,
that's what I want to do. I want to be that. And from that point on, I begged every day my parents to tell Santa Claus to bring me a guitar for Christmas. And sure enough, I got a guitar for Christmas. Obviously, it wasn't a Fender Stratocaster strung backwards like Jimi Hendrix. It was a huge, massive, like I think it was called Dixon or something, cheap guitar that they could afford. You know, I come from humble upbringings. Yeah. And, you know, that started my journey of connecting the guitar with this rock and roll lifestyle because I idolized these artists that were also drug addicts and alcoholics, Stevie Ray Vaughan, you know, Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, all these people. I idolized them. And I'm like, okay, so I have to live that lifestyle if I want to be that person. So I leaned into that at an early age. So combine that with me at 12 years old, drinking my first beer and having that feeling. And then in my brain, it made me feel like a normal human being for the first time in my life. Was just like, it set me up for.
It's a domino effect right there.
Exactly. You know, it's interesting. Cause I'm hearing this. I'm like, I just think obviously the comparisons to my little brother with Belushi and thinking that's the price I had to pay. But like with your case and Chris, like you were developing the art form that you could always fall back on. Yeah. And yet that took second place to this, you know, I need to do this first to make my art better.
Yeah.
Did you realize that like those were two happening at the same time?
You know, back then I didn't. Looking back now, I can see that that's what was happening in my young, you know, brain.
Did you see those people that you looked up to, the ones you rattled off? Did you see their lifestyle as like a tortured lifestyle, or did you see it as something to, I mean, like the fame and the music is amazing, but the stories of those people is full of addiction and it's sad because they're no longer here.
I think there was a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think there was this like mystery behind those guys. And like they just, you know, like Jim Morrison is like such a weird dude, you know? And it's like, I was a creative and I just loved the whole creative aspect of it. And I wanted to get deeper in that creativity. And I thought, you know, that's the path to it.
This talent of yours, like, did you believe it? Like, was there fear and doubt? I mean, which is a lot of us have this fear and doubt. So we turn to these substances to get us over that.
So when I was young, that wasn't a thing. But as I got older, that 12-year-old me sitting in the family room, kind of in the corner playing guitar after I drank the beer, it turned into me like leaning into it. And it was very clear in that moment, looking back now, that it kind of, that switch was also like, oh, this is what I need to feel confident in front of people, playing the guitar and then expressing myself through this art form that I love. Wow. And that kind of segued into my high school years where I was playing in bands, and it's like we're drinking in the cars beforehand before we go play the show, and into college years where drugs came into play too in the college days. And we can talk about that.
During these times, like what else? So you've got like this rock star, I mean, you're in a band, you're playing music, you've got this kind of like rock star lifestyle. What else is happening in your life at this time?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, because it's an important part of my story too, as we move forward, because I kind of, my entire drinking and drug career, I was living two different people. One was the party rock star lifestyle, and the other was the guy playing music at church. Yeah. So I grew up in the church.
Heartbreak. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Wow. I grew up in the church, and there's some really good stories that we have to get to because of that. I ended up later in life becoming a worship leader, music director at a church, but I grew up in the church, played in the youth group. And meanwhile, after church on Sunday or whatever, go hang out with friends and just get rip roaring drunk. And if weed was there, if anything else was there, I'd try it.
How'd you balance those two lives?
It was easy at first. I don't know if there was really a balance. There was just a separation between the two. It's like, I don't know. I was really good at hiding things for a long time.
Well, yeah. That's for sure. But we're always looking for connection, you know, and here you are using your talent to really connect with two totally different groups and kind of different connections. but you were probably telling, or maybe were you telling yourself, but I need both. I want both. I love this connection that I have with my church ministry, but I to be normal and, like everyone else, I need this too.
Yeah.
And the only thing to manage that, is we know how to manage that. You're drinking.
That's absolutely what I was after with music in the first place. And I didn't come to figure that out until, probably about a year into my recovery. I was thinking about it because I thought when I saw Jimi Hendrix that day, I thought what I wanted to be was a rock star. And what I really wanted to do is harness what he had to connect to people. Yeah. I felt so deeply what I was seeing and what I was feeling when I heard that music. I still feel very deeply about things. And what I really want to do with that is I want other people to feel what I feel when those things are. So I wanted to become that musician and that artist that could make people feel something. And I know now today with the cute little videos that I do, I'm able to do that because we'll talk about the church and my church career and how I lost that through my alcoholism and it broke me.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
I thought it was my identity to be this musician, this artist, and I lost it. And I'm like, well, and that kind of took me to rock bottom. But now I'm realizing like it was never about being a rock star and like performance. It was about connecting to people.
I appreciate that because I think a lot of times anybody that has that thing in them that might yearn for like, there's something, I love being on stage. I love, something to the masses. But what you said, like, I thought I wanted to be a rock star. And I feel like that's kind of like the go-to thing that people say when they have that thing. And it's like, no, but like, why? Like, let's figure out what that thing is. And the way you described it is beautiful. Like, I want to be able to have that same effect and to captivate an audience and to make somebody feel what I felt like I describe it as like a heart song. Like there's something going on inside of me when I hear this and I want to be able to give that to other people. Yeah. I think that's so cool because it's just like, I want to be a rock star. No, I want to be able to connect with people through something that is so passionate to me that I can provide that and give that and share that with other people.
Yeah. What's cool about it is I never would have had that realization if I stayed sick, if I continued to be able to hide it the way I was hiding it, because it all ended with blackouts. We know it's a progressive disease and it progressed to that point, but I stayed sick for so much longer than I needed to be sick because of hiding it. And I'm so thankful that I'm sober now and have the clarity to see like it wasn't that I wanted to be a rock star. It's that I wanted to be able to make people feel deeply, the quotes or the words or whatever it is that I'm performing or producing.
Yeah. The people around you, they're just seeing the same person too.
Yeah.
It's just the first indication is like, oh, well, you're behaving differently. It's a behavior thing.
Yeah.
But take me through that slow progression. Was there, glimpses of, I might have a problem. Mm-hmm. Was there an aha moment?
Yeah, it was a roller coaster, but I knew very young that it was a problem. I worked, if you guys know anything about Cincinnati, Ohio, I worked for a place called Skyline Chili. I worked there my whole high school career and I was the dishwasher and I liked being the dishwasher because I could be in the back drinking while I was working. So the older kids that were working there that were graduated in college, they would go buy booze and I would just sit back there and drink. And then meanwhile, drive home at the end of the night and, wake up with a hangover and go to high school. And then oftentimes during the weekday, like I would be playing gigs and weekends, I would be playing gigs and drinking all the time. And there were many times where I stumbled through the front door, went and laid down and, maybe sometimes I even threw up because I was so drunk or I just was spinning in my bed thinking to myself, like, I'm 16 years old. This is a big problem. Wow. This is a problem.
It's funny. So, some of us get really good at managing our addictions.
Yeah, like how do your parents?
It's a job.
Your parents pick up on it?
I was really good at hiding it, and I hid it all through my life. And I'd love to tell you guys a story about, how things progressed into me taking opiate pain medication, getting addicted to that, and, eventually getting on Suboxone on the street, and then eventually getting it through a doctor. But let me tell you that story. How about I just tell you?
Please.
This is like, we'll fast forward through all of my college years. Basically, I went to Full Sail in Orlando, Florida for college, learned recording arts. So it was all music based.
Awesome.
I was in the studio, really cool stuff, smoking a lot of pot. Whenever cocaine was around, ripping rails of that, you know what I mean? Just partying it down, living the rock star lifestyle. Moved back home to Cincinnati to start my own studio. Meanwhile, living with my parents, working in a paper factory, and I was dating a girl in Tennessee, long distance, working in this factory. Well, this girl broke up with me over text, and I was feeling down in this factory. Well, this old dude named Dog, we called him Dog, walked over and put some pills down on the desk that I was working on. He said, "Try these, they'll make you feel better." I tried them, and they made me feel better. They made me feel way better. And that moment right then and there, also happened at the same time. I happened to run into an old high school friend, which now is my wife. We started dating at that same time. So as I'm starting down this path of becoming addicted to opiate pain medication and being an alcoholic, I'm also falling in love with this woman. She knows nothing about it. Wow. And I knew right away, like, this is the woman that I want to marry. But we dated for 7 years, and she didn't know anything about the opiate pain medication. She didn't know anything about it.
That's got to be heavy on you to not only just going through that addiction, but to hide such a huge part of you and what you're going through from the person that you care so much about.
Did she ever tell you during that time, like, ever now looking back, did she ever say, like, yeah, but I saw the real you at a time when you didn't believe it or wanted to put something else out there?
There were times where money was tight, and she's like, that makes sense now. She saw that with the alcohol. She never suspected anything with opiate or anything other than alcohol. She thought it was alcohol related. And simultaneously, when all of that's happening is when I get the church gig and I become a worship leader at a church. So I'm going down this path where I'm this person for my wife and for the church. And then I'm this person when I go to cop pills off of Dog.
Oh my goodness.
And where I'm playing these gigs at night or going to the bar or whatever it is. So, and that went on for years. And then 2013 or 2012, we get engaged. We end up buying a house before we get married. I proposed to her at this house. And, I've always been a functional alcoholic drug addict. I was always a good person. I always got my things done, but I was just drunk and high while I was doing it, So we end up getting this house, we get engaged, and she wants to start a joint bank account. And by this time, I had gotten on Suboxone, and actually I was buying it off the street for a while, but I went to the doctor and got a prescription, and my life started to even out, right? Because now I'm not going to buy it off the street. Right. I got a doctor, things are going, but we're about to have a joint bank account. So I'm thinking, I got to get off of this shit before we get married, because she's going to see my doctor visits and the pharmacy visits. So I cold turkey it off Suboxone. And if you know anything about that, I know it's a medication that's great for helping people get off, but you have to step down very slowly. I went cold turkey. It was the worst experience I've ever gone through, and nobody knew I was going through it. I went through it alone. They knew I was sick, but they didn't know why. And the way I got through it was to stay drunk all the time. And when that happened, I just stayed drunk for the next 5 years.
How long did it last? Like, how long was your withdrawal? Like, what is that experience?
Oh my gosh. Like, I don't want to scare anybody when I say this, but for me, withdrawal off of that lasted way longer than I thought. You hear this whole thing 3 days. No. This was at least every bit of a month. I felt creepy crawlies. Like, when I would sweat, it was just like so irritating, and your emotions are so jacked up. I would just cry for no reason. You know what I mean? And what got me through was being at the church and like having that experience and those people around and having that sense of purpose. And then staying drunk also at the same time. And I got through it, and I was really stinking proud of myself.
It's hard when you do it by yourself. You just don't have the tools to take that extra aspect of it, the alcohol, and remove that because it's already so painful.
Yeah.
Wow.
My alcoholism got worse because I gave myself that pat on the back. Like, oh man, I got over this opiate addiction. Like I'm cool. Like I can just drink all I want. I got through it. And then that progressed, and that started to turn into terrible blackouts. And that can kind of lead into the end of my church career, into my rock bottom, which segues into me getting sober.
What was it that you say, I gotta be sober? Talk to the rock bottom.
Let's take a step back. I want to tell you a few other things before we get there.
Absolutely. It's your journey.
Yeah. Let me tell you how the church found out. And then that segues into me losing that purpose, and then it really going downhill. So I used to work at a factory, and every day I would leave the factory, pick up a bottle of cheap Kamchatka or LaSalle vodka, diluted vodka at the drive-thru every day. That I didn't even have to ask them for what I wanted. They would just have it. And like, here you go. Drink that on the way home. And that in and of itself is pretty bad. Like I would pour it in a Gatorade bottle and drink it just driving down the road. And I want to say that to say, like, I am so freaking blessed that I didn't face terrible consequences in my life. So my story isn't one of like my rock bottom took me to prison. It could have. When I tell you my rock bottom story, I could be in prison or dead, but I escaped without huge consequences, which is great. But one day, same old, buy the bottle, drive home, get home, pass out in the driveway of the car. My wife was already at work. She worked second shift teaching dance at this time. She's an amazing dance teacher and choreographer. She's in the performing arts. She traveled around doing amazing things. So love you, Olivia, if you're seeing this. But she was 8 months pregnant at this time. She comes home to find me passed out in my car, door locked, and she couldn't open the door. And she thinks I'm dead in the car. She sees a bottle of vodka laying there, and I'm passed out, couldn't wake up, wasn't moving. Finally, she goes, finds the spare key. Her 8-month pregnant self drags me into the house, pulls me in. And then she knows that at the church, I have a friend, a coworker there at the church that has a husband who's in recovery. So she calls this person. My good friend, Cindy, at the church is like, well, we need to tell the pastor. This pastor was, one of my best friends at the time is how I saw it. And we were at a new church start. I was working with this guy for years. The church that we were at kind of folded. He moved to start his own thing. I moved with him to help him do this. So this church is at a very vulnerable state of just getting started. And I get that. I understand that. I come out to this group at the church, and about 2 weeks later, I was getting pushed out of the church. I was no longer there, and it devastated me. And I look back on it for a while. I had a lot of resentment to that because it hurt my feelings that my friend would do that to me. And now I look back and I understand that, he was trying to protect himself. I think there was a better way to do it. Both things can be true. Both things can be true.
Well,
you can be upset because it does feel horrible to lose your community.
Yeah.
But also, it's a tough spot.
But as you say, like you're just starting a new ministry, like the musical ministry is almost just as important as the faith ministry in a new venture like that. So the decision, that he made wasn't lightly. I'm sure he thought that was the best thing for you, and because of your relationship, even though we don't see it. Yeah. Have you
I could have handled it better too. I think that when that happened, I curled up in a ball and just died. You know what I mean? And I could have just been like, hey man, I need some help.
Has that relationship healed?
No, since? I haven't talked to him. Wow. And I'm sure that he's seen me tell this story numerous times. And if you do see this, buddy, no hard feelings. Love you, man. We've moved on, went our separate ways. It's all good. I wish the best for you. But that broke me. That broke me, and my drinking then was already at blackout stage. So then we were at the point where it's like treatment. Like, what are we going to do here? We need to go to treatment. And, unfortunately, I know we're talking at Recovery.com, like treatment wasn't the end all be all for me. It was a very necessary part of my journey to recovery, but it's not like what fixed me in the end. You know what absolutely. I mean? But it got me going there. So I went to treatment, started an outpatient, failed a drug test. Then they're like, you got to go in the inpatient. Went into inpatient, and I basically told them when I was leaving. You know what I mean? I'm like, I can only be here for 5 days. I got to get back to work. Got out, kept drinking. Yeah. Right. So fast forward to 2016, we'll talk about the rock bottom moment. It was the day before Easter, 2016, and my wife had to work that day, but that night we had plans to go out with my wife's parents. We were going to go to the Butterfly Garden in downtown Cincinnati. Really cool place. It was going to be a great time. At this point, my daughter was born, and she was not yet a year old, but she was getting close to being a year old. So Daddy was in charge of taking care of Faye.
I know the story yet.
Yeah, my daughter's name is Faye. She's named after my grandmother,
it's a beautiful
which she never got to meet. But my grandmother was an amazing woman, and we named her Faye. So Faye Fisher. We thought it was fitting, and she is everything to me. Her and my son Phoenix, but Phoenix wasn't around yet. So I was in charge of taking care of my daughter, and I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail of exactly what happened that day, but basically I got blackout drunk with my wife at work, me taking care of my girl. Fast forward to Easter Sunday, I wake up in a daze on my parents' couch. Meanwhile, like, I didn't live at my parents'. We had our own house, right? So I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? Type thing. And I knew it was bad. My parents were sitting on the couch across from me, just looking at me with a very worried look on their face. And I was like, okay, I don't know what happened, but obviously it's not good. And my parents didn't know either. All they knew is they had to come pick me up the day before.
Your wife had just called him and said, just come get him.
Yeah, come get him. So there were festivities that day. It's Easter Sunday, right? Yeah. Families getting together. My wife shows up, and the festivities just happen to be at my parents' house. Great. I'm already there. Awesome. My wife shows up about an hour early, and she proceeds to tell my parents what I did the day before. And she didn't know at the time. She was also telling me what I did the day before. She didn't realize I had no recollection of it whatsoever. And what she told me it absolutely scared the life out of me, because again, my daughter is everything to me. I love her more than the world. Yeah. And I get emotional just thinking about it, because something bad could have happened. And if I didn't go to jail, if something bad happened, I can tell you I probably wouldn't be here, because I wouldn't want to live after that.
Yep.
So that was enough to scare me straight. And I know other people have very low rock bottoms, like they've been Narcan back to life a million times. And, I don't have that story, and I'm fortunate enough to have had that experience. And it was enough of a switch in me, plus my wife saying, you're kicked out of the house until you get this figured out. So that Easter Sunday, 2016, was a resurrection day for me in a sense. Yeah. And I started my 90 and 90. So 90 meetings in 90 days. And, because of treatment and because of that experience and what I learned in treatment and the connection I made from my wife making that phone call the one night of my friend, that started to walk me into recovery meetings. Here I am today, and life is so much better. And I've had so many opportunities like this to do. And we can talk about all the cool things that have happened since then.
This podcast is brought to you by Recovery.com. It's a place where anyone can find mental health or addiction treatment options specific to them. You can filter by location, price, insurance coverage, therapy type, mental health condition, levels of care, and so much more. Recovery.com is the place to find mental health or addiction treatment for anyone, anywhere. What was the first thing you did in recovery? Like what did you lean heavily into your kind of higher power thing, or did you 90 to 90, the connection you get there? That's a big thing. It can go so many directions, all positive, but where did you lean into?
It's funny that you mentioned the higher power thing. I had a resentment towards organized religion. So I was really struggling with that aspect of, the 12 steps are very rooted in organized religion, really, in a sense. I loved how they said God of your understanding. Mm-hmm. And I latched onto that because I'm like, I don't understand the God that I have been leading worship to for other people. I don't understand him right now. So I really had to lean into that God of my understanding. And I've worked through that. But yeah, it's, we'll talk about the things I did. I started that 90 and 90. So I was going to meetings every day. I was sitting there and I never talked at any meetings. Like you would have never seen me doing anything like this. Oh, like really? I was very, I'm actually a very quiet, introverted person. Like after this, I'm going to go take like a 3-day nap because I'm going to be worn out.
I feel that in my soul.
Yeah. So I did that and like, it was working, but I remember being in the meetings, like I gotta do something with myself.
Yes. You have to find something to kind of like dive into.
Yeah. And that's a huge part of my recovery story and what I do. What I try to like tell people is like, get busy doing something, find something you love and do it. Find a new addiction, really obsession. Obviously I don't want you to be addicted to anything.
But idle hands,
Idle hands. I think Benjamin Franklin's got a quote that's pretty great about that. It's the devil's plaything.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I remember sitting there and I'm like, I got to do something. I'm going to build a playhouse for my daughter, Faye. I'm going to like use this as a moment to do this thing and build this playhouse. So I got a chainsaw. This was like within the first few months of being sober. Got a chainsaw. We lived on the back of this basically mountain. Like it's a hill.
Sure.
And I'm like, I'm going to clear this mountain because it flattens out down there. I'm going to clear all that out and I'm going to build this thing. So I clear it all out. And in and of itself, just like clearing it out was a huge job. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, the first thing you got to do if you're going to build something, you got to put a foundation down. So instead of like a little playhouse, I'm like, okay, like let's make this pretty big.
Well, bigger foundation.
Oh, you're not talking about like Barbie play. You're going real. You went big.
It ended up being a full monstrosity of a tiny house like you see on HGTV, like type deal.
Oh, wow.
You can probably find footage of it online on my pages somewhere way back. But so the first thing I had to do was carry these 80-pound bags of concrete down this hill, and it about killed me doing this. But I am like, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to give up on this. I'm working through some shit and I'm going to work through it. I'm going to get through it. And I remember, I got to tell you this story too. My dad has helped me with everything my entire life. Like he's always been there for me. He was the sound guy for the shows. Like he was the roadie, like everything. Okay. And I remember calling him while I was working on this and it was about to rain and I needed to get something done really quick. And I called him. I'm like, Dad, can you come over and help me with this? And he's like, Ben, I'll help you with anything, but I'm not going to help you with that. And I'm like, what? And it broke me. And I realized after a minute of like, what's going on here? He was scared that I was building this to go down and drink and escape.
Wow.
So then it put this fire under me, like, there's nothing that is going to stop me from building this effing tiny house. So I did it. And eventually near the end, like he came around and my father-in-law came over and helped. And it was this beautiful thing. And we got pictures of us like cooking pizzas down there because I built this pizza oven on it. And it was a beautiful thing. And I called it Honey Faye Cottage because I cleared a bunch of honeysuckle and it was named after my daughter. And it was just this beautiful experience, of just recovery. All the while, like I hadn't started talking about my recovery open to anybody. Like this is just what I did my first year. At the same time, I was building this. One of my mom's good friends' husbands, he's in his 70s. He knew how to build guitars. He had a wood shop. and he saw that I was starting to work with wood. So he reached out to me, and I think my parents may have talked to him, like, Ben's working through some stuff. He reached out to me. He's like, I want to teach you how to build guitars. And I'm like, sure. So I started driving out there. It's an hour drive to get there. I would drive out there once a week, and he would start teaching me how to shape the guitar and like build these acoustic guitars. So cool. And while he was doing it, he was teaching me, like telling me stories of his life.
Oh, wow.
And these lessons that he's learned. And all of a sudden this light bulb went off in my head. And I'm like, I have to shoot a documentary of me learning how to build guitars and tie my recovery into that. But I kept pushing that idea back because I'm like, I don't have any gear. I don't want to tell anybody I'm in recovery. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't have, all I have is a cell phone.
Did people in your life know that you were in recovery?
Just my parents and maybe a couple people. The guy from the church that helped get me into meetings, not a lot of people. And this went on for 3 years. Right. I was quiet. I was anonymous for 3 years doing all this. I wanted, a lot of gurus, they'll get a month clean time in and they'll get on Facebook and tell everybody how to do it. I'm like, I didn't want to be that person.
Do you know why you felt that way about it?
Because I wasn't sure I had it figured out. Yeah. It's one day at a time. Yeah. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do today. And I didn't feel like I had any room to be telling anybody how to do anything. I stuck my tail between my legs. I worked through my stuff with my chainsaw and my hammer and, my guitar building tools. And, through that process of having that idea click and me pushing it back, this idea kept coming back. And the thought kept coming of, well, if you can help one person, you have to do it. If you can help one person, you have to do it. So finally, a couple months into it, I gave in. I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it with my cell phone. And I started filming stuff, and I started meeting with people because I wanted to get other people in the documentary too. But then they started to tell their stories. I'm like, holy shit, like, this isn't just about me. Yeah. This is going to be a documentary series. So I started filming other people, and it started this journey of this documentary series, which is the platform, A String of Hope. So that's where the name A String of Hope comes from. So the guitar building, a big thing that it taught me, the guitar building thing taught me, was patience. Because you can't, because it's one thing I struggle with, and I think a lot of addicts and alcoholics do, is instant gratification.
Yeah, and ADHD too. We're dopamine seekers. And a lot of times when we do get that little alcohol taste at a young age, it's a different type of dopamine that we haven't had before.
Yeah. And this made me slow down, and it was very therapeutic for me. So, during early recovery, and then also, like, I bring in this aspect of, okay, so now I start this Facebook page and I'm talking about my recovery. So it brings this whole other aspect of accountability. It's like, okay, now the world knows that you're in recovery. So, like, you're in recovery now. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that was really cool. And the first year, like the documentary, I was never on the camera speaking to the camera, right? I was just kind of in the background doing my guitar work, doing voiceovers and interviewing other people. In that first year, the page grew to 10,000 followers. And I thought, I can't believe this has happened. I can't believe I have 10,000 people following this page. Like, it can't get any better than this, right? And then second year, it grew to 100,000 followers. And I'm like, it can't get any better than this. Like, what the heck is going on? And I had linked up with some other, like, recovery advocates, and like we were cross posting and like things started to grow.
It's a great community. Yeah.
Right. But I was still, like, not in front of the camera. And I was just scared to, like, put myself out there and do anything like this, that big step, The third year, by this time it was COVID 2020, TikTok comes out. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to, like, just shoot a couple cute little videos and put them on TikTok. I don't have any friends.
Might delete later feeling cute.
Yeah. Feeling cute. Might delete. But I felt comfortable doing it because nobody I knew was following me there. So I'm like, I'm just going to.
Oh, safe. Yeah.
It's safe, And all of a sudden these videos start taking off. 500,000 views, 1 million views, 9 million views. And all of a sudden, Shaquille O'Neal shares one of my posts, and it's like, what the frick? And it goes nuts. And I'm like, okay, well, let me put these videos on Facebook. I put them on Facebook. Same thing happens. They start going viral, and it starts going nuts. And all of a sudden, 100,000 followers turns into 1 million. Wow. And it's like, here I am today. You know what I mean? And like all of these opportunities have happened because of that.
So you developed this connection online, and you developed this, as you say, patience, but with your, with your art, building a guitar, you're teaching all these things. Did those behaviors then translate over to your real relationships?
Yeah. I think so. Obviously, like there's the ebb and flow of life. There's hard times that you go through, and me and my wife have, we've grown together, but we've become different people over the years too. And we've figured out how to grow together. And you go through seasons of like, we're not getting along right now, but we always figure it out and we come back.
That's beautiful.
And we've gone through a couple of those since then. And I don't think that would be the case if I was still drinking and have had these experiences of learning patience and, just the things that I've learned in recovery. I think we would have fizzled out and burnt out. It's changed the dynamic with a lot of people too, because, one thing like with my dad, we used to kind of be drinking buddies, to be honest with you. Even with my mom, we were drinking buddies. And for the first little while, my mom would be like, is it okay if we like have a glass of wine around you? And like, yeah.
Another relationship I'm curious about, and I hope this isn't going like too far back, but there was a time you said that like, I was angry with God. I was angry with my faith. I hope I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's not.
No, that's pretty right.
What was the change in that relationship?
Yeah.
And could you just tell me a little bit why that relationship felt that way to you, that you felt that anger at that time?
I realized that it wasn't God. It was people, it was humans and human nature. But I've also come to realize the God of my understanding is in everything, in all things. So when I look at you, Tom and Brittany, I see God. And that's a very incredible way that has changed my life and how I treat people. And not only do I see God, because if God's in everything, he's also in me. So when I look at you and you, I also see me when I see you. And when you think about it that way, you start to look at people differently and the things that they're going through and the things that they're dealing with. And you have a lot more compassion and empathy and love for everything and everybody around you.
It's easier to lead that
That's
way.
A connection. I mean, that what you're feeling is that connection you've been chasing your whole life, and all of a sudden you're seeing that in somebody, and somebody's seeing that in you, and you're like, now we're human. Now we're being human together.
Yeah.
Like I never had that any time in my life.
Yeah.
Until it was opened up to me.
The rooms showed that to me too. Like you get in a room with a bunch of alcoholics or drug addicts that, you've been around people using, but when you get in a room full of people who have overcome
and turn the lights on and get real about
and it's like, oh, you guys get me and you understand, like it kind of helps with that connection.
So
too.
You said you did the meetings. It was 90 meetings, 90 days. What other thing? And it sounds like you also developed your own form of therapy, whether you were like cognitive of it at that time or not, but you were just picking up things and tools that would best suit your life and things that you already enjoyed. Just to kind of amplify the joy in your life with those.
The things that I explained to you, just the building of the guitars, the starting of the documentary series, the Facebook page, which is a full-time job in itself, like managing that, just the idle hands thing where I have to like be focused on doing something. If I did 90 days or 90 and 90 and just stayed in meetings and just kept doing that, I would probably be back to drinking again because I needed to find my purpose. I am a purpose-driven person. And that's why it was so heartbreaking when I felt like I lost my purpose, and lost my identity of who I was. So I'm always seeking like, what is that next thing? And it's like, I've grown a business now too. I have a business called Fisher Custom Media, which kind of houses a string of hope, as a media business and help other clients to help their social media and their websites and everything.
But we think that we need to jump right into that surface to other thing. And sometimes we do it too soon. So like what you just described, it's like you got your foundation really rock solid before you did that. Were you conscious of that?
Yeah. I don't think I was actually that conscious of it at the beginning. I think it was fear. I think it was fear out of like just coming out, and telling people like, this is what I struggled with.
What were you afraid was going to happen?
That's the crazy thing. I don't know. And that's the crazy thing about fear too. It's like,
you just like anticipate everybody's answers are the worst
case scenario.
Yeah. Oh my. Worst case scenario. Then you loop on and you're like, I'm definitely not saying that to anybody. I'll just fester in my lonesomeness.
I'll tell you, like, I thought I was working at a factory at the time. Right. And I thought like, okay, the factory's going to find out and they're going to fire me because of it, And meanwhile, like when it came out, like I was on the news a couple times talking about this documentary. And I remember one of the HR people coming, she's like, I saw you on the news last night. This is very cool. And I'm like, and a weight was lifted off my shoulders. Like, okay. It was kind of like a signal of like, you did the right thing.
Take an exhale.
Open up.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I love to tell people, like, if you need to be anonymous, right? Mm-hmm. It's anonymous for a reason, but some of us need to speak out because too many people are dying. Right. And there's these, back in the day when AA started, there weren't these drugs that were killing people first time. Yes. And it's a scary place. So we need a few soldiers out there that are willing to do this. A lot of people didn't know that I was dealing with it, so there wasn't this like, you were a piece of crap and now you're not type thing, or you were causing problems and now you're not, because I was really good at hiding it and I was functional until the very end.
Yeah, which adds kind of another layer, because it's like, well, I mean, with somebody who isn't hiding it so well, I ain't got to tell anybody. They can already tell it's a problem. But with you, you're like, I had to tell people it was a problem. And then I had to admit to, submitting, needing help. And now I'm doing my best to.
I stayed sick for way longer than I needed to because I hid it so well. And I want to tell anybody listening to this, if you consider yourself a functional alcoholic and you're stopping and going to that store every day and buying that drink and you feel like there's an issue, like you don't have to hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
No,
you do not have to hit rock bottom. You can get off the elevator right now.
Staying the same as rock bottom.
Yeah.
As I tell a lot of people, is like our minds think, oh, I know what my life's going to be like if I do this, make this acceptance and decision. I know what it's going to be like. Because that's,
because I know this discomfort.
I know this thing. And the thing is,
it's too hard to get out of.
Fear is preventing you, a fear of whatever it is. It's out there too. It's
What's on the other side of fear?
Yeah. If recovery's on the other side of fear.
There we go.
On that side, once you make that leap, it's like life starts to get better. It was never getting better before. No. Maybe ups and downs. And at times it seemed pretty good, but it was stagnant. And all of a sudden, life is starting to get better and not on your timeline, but whenever. Right. I'd like talk to me about when you started to really realizing that fear and self-doubt kind of drains away. I'm like,
it's interesting. Like the whole stagnant thing you mentioned. And I thought I was doing pretty good. Yeah. I was working at the factory, making pretty good money, and we had a house and we were putting food on the table. But looking back I was completely drowning all of my potential with the booze.
Yeah.
When I got sober, one thing that I learned very quickly is how much you can accomplish in an hour. An hour.
Yeah.
Because it used to be like, oh, I only got an hour to do that. Like,
so you wouldn't do it. Yeah.
So you wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And then in recovery, I'm like, I got an hour. Like I can go bend the sides of these guitars or edit this video. And I just started to accomplish so much. And I was like, just burning on all cylinders. Awesome. We're going. And it's like for the first time in my life, since that time where I took that first drink when I was 12 years old, like I'm firing on all cylinders and I feel like a normal human being, even though when I was 12 years old, that drink made me feel like a normal human being. And I don't know what it was that like made that switch in me, that now I feel good in my own skin. I can't put my finger on what that is other than I can't say it's a spiritual awakening either. It was just, just an awakening. Like, it just is,
But look what you're doing. Like you are acknowledging that you're doing some pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Again, you want to continue to do that and tell people, but what what fires your engines? What have you heard lately? Like some story, some other, like something that happened in the community, some human thing that you're like, man, like almost like the Woodstock moment, like
helping people and seeing change in people, seeing the light come back on in people's eyes. And it always goes back to my original thought of if I can help one person, because now I have these platforms where millions of people are following me and I get these comments, and some of them are negative. Most of them are very positive, but every once in a while you'll get one where it's like, this video changed my life and kept me from committing suicide. And it's like, that's what it's all about.
And that person, they did it themselves.
Yeah.
But you were part of it. Like they're coming back to you and acknowledging that you didn't do that. They did it, but you were part of it. And that's that feels amazing.
That's a really good point, and something that I like to make clear, because a lot of people reach out to me for help, and I'm like, there's no magic bullet. Yep. And if I could fix this for you, I would fix it in a heartbeat, but I can't. All I can tell you is what I did. And you can take what I did and take pieces of that and figure out what works. All that matters is you keep trying something until it works. Because I tried multiple things. Like we talked about the treatment. We talked, there were other things that we tried. We tried to go down to just drinking beers instead of liquor. You know what I mean? We tried all these different things. And it's like, just keep trying things until it works. Just don't give up. The only time you fail is when you give up.
You got to do it yourself. But now you've written a book. That has some of those things in there.
And that's exactly what the book is. It's basically, it's 9 steps, and it's not all 12 steps, but there's a couple of the steps that kind of emulate the 12 steps. Like the first one in the book is mandatory, and it's mandatory in the 12-step book too. Is you got to admit that there's a problem. If you can't admit there's a problem, then you can't fix it. Right. But then some of the other things, it talks about finding your new addiction, obsession. I was talking to somebody in the treatment industry, and they're like, you should probably reword that to obsession.
I know what you mean. Whenever I'm like addiction transfer, I'm like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But there's a section in the book where it basically talks about find something that you just love so much and just do it. And maybe that's going to be multiple things. For me, it's been numerous things.
Like, we'll go back to the music, that talent was always there, but you redefined it. Yeah. It wasn't chasing Jimi Hendrix and that. It was building a guitar. Like, it was the same love, the same talent, but sometimes we have to redefine what it is. Yeah. And it was there all along.
Yeah, sometimes we have to pivot too. And life changes too. Your circumstances changes, and it's like, who wants to live the same day 75 years in a row and call it a life? You know what I mean? I'm all about like, okay, this season right now, I'm working on a string of hope and building this page and doing this, or building Fisher Custom Media, or writing this book. I don't know what's next. You know what I mean? When an idea pops in my head, I'm going to walk through the door as they open. Yeah. And that's my thing, is like, when doors open, I'm going to walk through them.
Yes. Right
now, I'm in an interesting season. I'm segueing from a job that I've been working on for a while to kind of going off and doing my own thing with Fisher Custom Media.
That's awesome.
And we're taking a huge leap of faith because we don't know where the income's going to come from right now. So we're like, what are we going to do? But I know that I'm going to take this leap of faith. And if I put the work in, God or the universe will open the next door.
As bad as it can get, looping on those negative thoughts, like, take that to the other end of the spectrum and just think of like the possibilities of how great something could be.
Right.
The unknown.
It takes away a lot of that fear. Like, could you ever do this, all of the things you've done alone?
No.
Yeah.
Not a chance.
Because that's scary. That's fearful. Yeah. But the connection, the people you surround yourself with that accept you, and trust you.
You remind me with saying that I really need to give another shout out to my wife and to my parents, because, her tough love that day, like I don't know where I would be. Like, dating girls in high school, like some of them are drinkers now today. And I feel like if I was married to somebody who was also a drinker, because my wife never drank. Mm-hmm. So I had that blessing of like, it wasn't in the house unless I had it in the house. So when I got sober, I was like, okay, this isn't something that I have to fight. Mm-hmm. And then her tough love, and then just her willingness to stand beside me and like work through it with me.
There's not a playbook for that.
Yeah. And then all the people who held my hand, you know how nerve wracking it is walking into your first recovery meeting. Mm-hmm. I was so scared of that for some reason. And it's like, after you get in there, you're like, I was scared to death. Yeah. And I know a lot of people are scared to death to do that. And I'm telling you, just walk in and do it. You're going to, and maybe it's not, if you don't like the first one, go to another one because they're all different. You know what I mean? There's different groups of people, and it's, and also like treatment center wise, like there's different treatment centers. Yep. Do your research, and Recovery.com is a great resource for that.
What's some advice? What are 5 words that you would give somebody, maybe that was in your situation, to help give them hope or encouragement?
5 words.
You can even make it 5 words and then give me a description.
Like that,
you can give me a description too.
That part of that question made that very difficult because now I got to count and do math in my head.
Yeah, I know.
It's 6, get out.
Yeah.
You're in the wrong lane. This is 5 items or less.
You know, there's just a couple different things I would say. Put in the work. Just 4 or 3, however many words that is. You know, you got to put in the work like we were just talking about. You're capable of making amazing changes in your life.
Yes, absolutely.
That's something that people just need to understand. You're more than capable, because I know what it feels like to feel stuck and like you don't have any of that control and you feel like you're not capable.
Yes. You don't have to stay sick.
You don't have to stay sick. You don't have to stay sick. Yeah. And it's going to be tough at first, but on the other side of it, it is a beautiful thing. And you hear all the cliche things of how, you know, you're going to live a life of your wildest dreams. And it's like, I don't know if I'm living a life of my I've got some pretty freaking wild dreams. You know what I mean?
Dreams.
Yeah. But I'm living a really good life, and one that I didn't know was possible because of drowning my purpose. So what I want to say to people is, first off, you need to admit that it's an issue. And if you're questioning it, you know, even if it's a question in your mind, that tells me that it's something that you want to change and you're capable of that change. So then you got to put the work in to make that change. And it just takes consistency, and it just takes effort, and it takes a community.
Yeah.
It takes the connection that we've been talking to. Yeah. So
you're not alone.
Yeah. You can be anonymous and find that community. And we talked about the rooms, but maybe it's not traditional rooms. Maybe Celebrate Recovery would work for you. Maybe just going to church, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then where can people find you on your socials? What are your socials?
So A String of Hope. If you search A String of Hope, you'll see my ugly face with the backwards hat just cheesing. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. And then you can find my website, benfisherinspires.com. Check that out. It's a newer website. So I need all the visitors I can get to go check that out. I'm doing some blog posts on there.
Book. Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
New book is going to be a while. There's a lot going on. A lot going on, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of quotes too. Man. So keep an eye out for that.
So exciting. Yeah. And we're really happy for you. I mean, this story was incredible, and we're so happy to have you here. Yeah. You know, it's great that you are here today with us. And thank you so much for sharing that story. It's so important, and it helps with the connection. We can't have connection until people are ready to share their stories and open up and be vulnerable. And it's amazing. We love these conversations.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Thank you,
couldn't
guys.
ask for anything better. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. Ben, this has been amazing. If you would like to learn more about Ben Fisher, you can check out the description and the show notes. This has been a wonderful episode. Thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your day.